Hello everyone and welcome to Let's Play Switchball. On this episode we're taking care of the ice world and starting with World 4. World 2-4 to be precise. The worlds are actually getting a lot more complicated now, and this took me a little bit of extra time to kind of figure out what to do with the puzzles. The first puzzle that we've got to deal with is we've got to take this little metal crate, and it's kind of difficult to move it as a marble ball, but thankfully they give us a transformer as a steel ball. Oh, it's possible to move that crate as a marble ball. It just takes a long time. And I don't want to deal with it. So let's just do it this way. Now the steel ball is not going to be able to fit through that little hole there. So what you need to do is kind of push it in as far as you can. And there you go. You can kind of transform back as a marble ball and push it a little further if you want, because you can get enough momentum or speed to kind of push it. At any rate, what you do once that crate is there is push this over here with the magnet, and now turn the magnet off, and remember that other magnet by the other crates. Well, the magnet's going to give enough force to that moving crate so that's going to take care of these other wooden crates, and it's going to knock everything out of the way. Well, mostly. It's going to give us enough wiggle room so we can get by. And that's the first obstacle, the first challenge. I like that the levels are actually getting a lot more creative. The cave world, the next world, is actually opened up once you hit 2-3. So I would imagine that these worlds are maybe a little more difficult than the first cave worlds, but the next worlds, like 3, 4, 5, 6, are going to be obviously more difficult than this. So I like that they varied up the difficulty a little bit. So you could skip ahead if you wanted to. Yeah. So I'd imagine the expert levels are the last 3, the regular levels are the first 3 of each world. Here you're going to knock over those crates there. And remember that kind of lift that we saw earlier? Once you hear kind of a air sound, then you can move as quickly as you want. So as soon as you hear that air sound, that hissing of air sound, then move. I don't know exactly what it's doing. I don't know if it fills it with hot air or something, but there you go. Now we get to go along the mast of the ship. And we're starting to get used to these lifts a lot more now. And we'll have a lot more complicated puzzles involving these. Well, in the future. Soon enough. Now just roll up here on the ropes. And just be a little cautious there, and you'll be fine. You can do that over and over again until you get it right. It's not a huge deal. Although it is a little annoying. And this is also another annoying part because the plank is rather narrow and it's easy to fall off there. The next puzzle is highly symmetrical and not too difficult. It's kind of easy to figure out what to do. These magnets need to be off because we need to progress as a steel ball. So what you can do is just roll this way and turn them off. You can't kind of roll back and forth across them and turn them off. This is just kind of the way they intended for you to do it. Because those magnets will pick up your steel ball and take you off of the railing. And I don't know if you were able to see my times on the testing of this level and the other levels. Originally, when I first played through these levels, it took me 12 to 15 minutes a level trying to figure out what was going on. And now that I'm kind of used to it, the playthrough on each level should be much shorter. Don't worry about this tube here, it's kind of pointless. But anyways, transform into the beach ball, or the rubber ball, or the air ball, if you want to call it that. And just float away to the next level. And I'm going to skip past the loading screens as much as possible, so there you go. They take a while even with my monster of a computer and a solid state drive, so I'm just going to skip past them where possible. But if anyone's curious what they say or the loading screens say, just let me know. Anyway, what we have here are nails on the floor. It doesn't look like nails. I wasn't sure exactly if that was hair or what, but yes, those are nails, and those will pop your ball. So avoid that. Kind of reminds me of that scene in Flash Gordon. You know, when he was fighting and the spikes came out of the ground floor. But anyway. Also, I made a big mistake there. Due to these pieces of fabric, you can see they kind of are easy to fall off. And I did that a couple of times, so I just skipped past that. So you didn't have to see me making mistakes all the time. This section's kind of pointless. I think it's just a red herring with the fan and the crate there, so don't worry about it. Not entirely sure what that does or what the point is of that. There are some spots in this level that are just kind of there just to be there and to confuse you. Unlike Balance. Balance was very straightforward and minimalist. This game is less minimalist. It does try to throw you off course sometimes. Here what you need to do, by the way, is push this small crate. And it does take you a little bit of time. I don't know of a faster way to do it. But you kind of have to push this small crate around onto that switch, because that's a weighted switch. It's not a toggle switch. And for whatever reason, the cord on the ground there does not have a any depth to it. Or if it does, it's not slowing the crate down at all. Yes, I realize this is tedious, but I made it as quickly as I could. Because the reason why you need to turn that on is so you can go up here as a marble ball and roll up that hill with the aid of the fan. Here we've got kind of a little puzzle with nails on either side. And I haven't shown you what happens when the ball hits a nail, so I think in this section I actually hit one of the nails. And you'll see why. Because there's nails on that side there, or in front of you. And what happens is it just deflates your ball. But this section isn't too bad. Those nails look more like hair than they look like nails. But I guess if you look closely, you can see a point to them. It's a nice little challenge, really. Kind of reminds me of Bramble Scramble in Donkey Kong Country or something. Although I wonder if Stickerbush Symphony would actually work as a soundtrack to this level. I don't know. I'll have to look into that maybe. On my own time, of course. I don't think it would mix too well because that is a, well, yeah, the audio quality's changed greatly from the mid-90s to 2008. So, anyways, here what we need to do is push these blocks over. Each section has kind of a little pipe that we need to push the blocks or the crates onto. And it is a little tricky. I got this as quickly as I could. But, this is about as quickly as I could do it. I'm not worried about going through it too quickly. There we go. And you may ask why we are doing all of this really tedious stuff. Well, we have to for this level. So the levels are getting more challenging, but they're not that difficult. They're easy to figure out if you just spend a little bit of time on them. The puzzles are not necessarily agility puzzles like they were in the latter part of Balance. They're more of just like, what are you going to do for trial and error? What kind of trial and error are you going to do in order to solve a puzzle, you know? I don't like that. It's less of a dependency on your finger pushing skills, your button pushing skills rather, and more of a dependency on your brain, you know. And I'm not sure why I switched into a steel ball there, but oh well. That's why we have to push the crates out of the way. And that puzzle's probably one of the longer puzzles of the Ice World. I think the next world is pretty long too, but it's not as tedious. The puzzles are a little bit more ingenious, I would imagine. I guess that's the word you would call it. At any rate, what we need to do here is there's another gyrocopter here, but it doesn't really do anything. Another red herring. Just roll up here, and there you go. I think that's there in case you turn into another ball or something, but... Well, that other transformer, but I don't see any way of doing that unless you go back 2 checkpoints, and who's going to be doing that? Anyway, right here is kind of a neat little puzzle. Kind of reminds me of Voxel for the Game Boy. You need to, or Solomon's Key, I suppose. But anyways, you need to push these boxes over this way. And you see there's 2 magnets, one in the north and one in the south. The blue and the gray magnets here. We need to push the crate over one direction and push it over in another direction. And then eventually we can go through this hole that was created. Well, eventually. You need to build up a little bit of speed first. There you have it. And here you go, another little, I don't know what you call these things. Because it's just a gentle puff of air or something that lifts the ball skyward, propels it. Now here we're going to have to go this way and change into a steel ball, and you'll see why in a moment. The reason why we need to change into a steel ball is so that we can push these little stone balls down. And this really looks a lot harder than it really is. It's not that difficult. Because eventually you'll get the hang of it. And you just gently nudge it ever so slightly. And then eventually you will... Yes, there you go. And eventually it'll fall on that switch. And we could roll across as a steel ball, but if we did that, guess what would happen? The magnet would pull us towards it, and it wouldn't work. So I like how they have a little one-way gate there, or a one-ball type gate, I guess you'd call it that. Now this is kind of confusing. We have 3 switches here for different fans, and you're not supposed to put all 3 fans on at the same time. You're only supposed to put particular fans on when you need to go a certain direction. And it's a little bit of trial and error like that. And the timing of this switch is not that bad, really. Just get the ball into the fan, and there you go. Once you're a steel ball, you can roll down here and knock these crates out of the way. Large tower of crates, kind of like Jenga or something, I suppose. You don't have to knock over all of these crates, but I would knock over most of them. It'll make life a little easier for you. Now here, we need to turn off this fan, and there's only one fan that we need to turn on. But of course we cannot float around as a steel ball, so we need to be a rubber ball. Now you may think this isn't enough to push yourself forward, and it isn't just yet. I just wanted to show you what kind of happens. Is if you push yourself a little too forward, you're not going to have enough push from the air. I also wanted to show you what happens if you switch on another fan too in a moment. I'm going to show you there is a little bit of trial and error to this. Apologize if this is tedious, I just wanted to show you all the avenues that you could test out here. Now if you leave this fan on, and I might as well show this. If you leave this fan on, what will happen is you will get immediately pushed into that other fan. So you have to turn that fan off. And you may be asking yourself, so what do you do? Well, the solution is to get as close as you can to the fan so you can get more energy, more air to push yourself forward. So I like how it uses a physics engine like that. And we're getting to kind of a home stretch here now. As we can see the gyrocopter in the distance, and there you have it. Anyways, this wraps up the ice world. On the next episode, we're going to try the Cave World, World 3. So thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful day. Goodbye.